What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. So today we're continuing more discussions about the 7th anniversary Super Sugo-Fest exclusive characters. I have just uploaded my video talking about Luffy, and now we're going to be talking about Trafalgar Law. Now, out of all of the legends that are debuting for the 7th anniversary, Law is my personal favorite. On paper, I love his abilities, and we're going to talk about them today. I'm super pumped to talk about this character, so let's get into it. So, Law is going to be a Dex Cerebral Slasher, and following the same suit as Luffy, where Luffy was a quick free spirit fighter and boost quick free spirit and fighter, Law is very similar, boosting Dex, Cerebral, and Slasher characters by 5 times flat, 1.3 health boost to those characters as well. The crew will treat strength and quick slots as beneficial and heal 0.5 times his recovery for every perfect that you hit. It's a pretty, stock standard, pretty easy to understand captain effect, and it's a good effect. There's nothing about it that's inherently bad. You've got a really good multiplier to a lot of characters, you've got a decent health boost, you've got some beneficial slots there, and if you hit perfects, you heal some recovery back. There's legit nothing wrong with this captain effect at all. It's amazing. So that's that, right? And his special ability on a 12-turn cooldown. Now, I believe this is Limit Break expanded. So his special ability will cut the HP of one enemy by 10% that ignores all defensive effects. Now, this isn't that useful, but we'll talk in a little bit later about how useful this actually is. The fact that he actually does damage is very, very important, and it's really, really nice in the future. He does that, and then he also changes only his own slot into a Dex slot that goes through block orb. So it's a guaranteed Dex slot on Law himself. And then for one turn, boost the attack of Dex, Cerebral, and Slasher characters by 2.75 times. Fantastic special ability so far. And then he has this really, really nice last little sentence that just is the cherry on top, where it says he ignores debuff protection on enemies and then inflicts them with increased damage taken by 1.5 times for one turn. This is probably the most broken part of his special, because what this essentially means is that when they get inflicted with this debuff, any damage that is dealt to the enemies, whether it be from a special, from normal attacks, from anything, any damage that is inflicted on the enemy whilst this debuff is active on them is increased by 1.5 times. So essentially, when you activate Law's special, you just get 1.5 times boost on everything that you're doing already, which is phenomenal because he himself is already giving your crew a 2.75 attack boost, and then you're getting a free 1.5 boost on top of it. If you guys have seen the abilities of Super Type Kaido, the quick Super Type Kaido, it's very similar to that. Kaido gives you a 2 times buff to the enemy that it gives them increased damage taken, but it doesn't go through immunity buffs. Whereas Law, it's a little bit less, 1.5, but it does go through immunity buffs, which is just immensely useful to have. Very, very good. Now, of course, Law is also a super type character, being a Dex super type unit. His condition, a little bit different from Luffy, where you just need the Straw Hat characters. You just need one of the supernovas, which isn't that difficult. There's a lot of the good supernovas these days, and his super tight special will heal your crew 25% of your max HP value that overheals, by the way. So it's a 25% heal, and then if you are if you're going to be, hitting the max cap, it will give you overheal, which is good. It's very similar to Luffy Sanji and Shirahoshi Manchiri V2, where the overheal is just 2 times your cap is the max you can get to, but a 25% heal is fantastic. Then it changes block orbs into matching slots as well, and then for one turn, you lock your orbs. And then super type Dex characters. It's not a broken special, but I like aspects of this, and we'll talk more a little bit about it once I get into the positives of the unit. But pretty decent super type special, not broken, but it's fine. And then his last tap, because we talked about Luffy with his last tap, which takes over one of his potential abilities, which is the new mechanic coming in here. Now, Luffy was a bit different, where the condition to activate the ability was you just had to enter the final room. Law's is a little bit different, because the condition to activate this effect, you have to enter the last stage with 70% or more health. So essentially, if you're about to move into the last stage, you want to be launching the super tight special to give you some health back. But if you are above 70% and you enter the last room, when Law is the last character to attack with your normal attacks, it adds 20% of the enemy's HP to the total damage of Law's attack. So essentially what this means is if the enemy has 10 million health, 20% of that 10 million is added to Law's attack. So it means an additional 2 million in that example would be added. If they have 100 million, it's 20 million additional damage. Like, you can see, obviously, it's an exponential scale depending on how much HP the boss has. It's pretty crazy how good this is. And then it says, for 1 turn, reduce enemy defense to 0, and he himself boosts the attack against enemies with defense down by 3 times. So that's pretty crazy, right? The fact that with this one unit, when Law's the last character to attack, you've got your 5 times captain effect, you've got a 2.75 attack boost, you have your additional 1.5 times damage from the increased damage taken, and then you have his last tap, which gives you 20% additional damage depending on the enemy HP, and a 3 times conditional boost as well. So Law himself is going to be hitting ridiculously hard, especially when you stack orb boosters, color affinity, chain buffs. There's a lot to like about Trafalgar Law. And that's essentially the breakdown of the unit. I'm not going to get into his Pirate Rumble stuff, but they all seem pretty decent in Pirate Rumble. But let's go ahead and start talking about the positives and negatives of this unit. Okay, so the positives of Law, of this brand new Trafalgar Law character. Now, first of all, he's a 5 times captain to Dex units, Cerebral, and Slasher characters. Just that alone is fantastic. According to the database, through doing some filtering, that means he boosts, give or take, 49%. You know, it could be more, could be less, depending on how many units are actually there. Plus, that does include both evolved and unevolved versions of characters. But it's like, give or take, like around 45 to 50% of the game's characters, Law can boost with his captain effect, which is actually pretty insane when you think about it. I mean, that doesn't include boosters and evolvers as well. We're just talking about actual characters that you're going to use. That's really good. There's a lot of characters in the game that Law can get access to, but unfortunately, not a lot of the Dex ones in particular are that good, which we'll talk about when we get to the negatives of this unit, right? Another thing that I really like about this unit, he has a pretty decent health boost, and remember, if you're running double Law, you get 2 of these health boosts, and if you have a health boost on your ship as well, that's additional health you can get. But the fact that he has 1.3 health, plus he has a healing mechanic, which is not like Luffy, because Luffy, where with him, you get recovery slots more often, and you can hit a perfect with a recovery slot and still consume it. But with Law, you don't have to worry about getting a recovery slot. You know, anytime you attack, as long as you hit a perfect, you're going to be healing from it, which is pretty fantastic, which I love. He makes strength and quick counters beneficial to your team, so that's going to be really good for your Dex units. But additionally, if you've got Cerebral and Slasher units, just getting more chances of matching slots is always useful to have. Another thing that I love is that he's a damaging special. Now, we talked about it very briefly before, but the fact that he does damage with his special ability means that there are some key support units that you can put on him that would not have triggered otherwise. The fact that he does damage is huge, and it's going to be big moving on into the future, because there are some key support units, not particularly on Law, but there's lots of support units in the game that will only trigger if the character does a damaging special, and Law does a damaging special. Actually, all 3 of these debuting units all do damage with their special ability, which is huge. It means a lot, honestly, so I love that. He is his crew's dedicated attack booster, 2.75 to his Dex, Cerebral, and Slasher class characters, which is great. And his super type, you know, obviously getting a little bit of health back is pretty nice, and the overhealing is a little bit of a bonus. I don't think this is the most broken thing in the game, but obviously you want to be healing before you move into the final boss, so you can launch his last tap effect, which is good. And of course, we can't really go past this. The fact that he guarantees an additional 50% bonus on any damage you do is one of the most broken things ever. And even if you're not going to be using this guy as a captain, just using this guy on a sub on a lot of teams, even on teams where he's not even going to be fully boosted, is going to be something that people are going to do, just because of the fact that, yeah, you know, he does a damaging ability, which means there are some key supports you can use, but also the fact that he just gives you 50% extra damage for free, even if the enemy has like full immunity buffs, which is great, right? So if you need like a conditional booster and you got an extra spot in your team, you can just chuck this on if you want. A one-man army that allows you to get 50% bonus, which I love. His super tight special, also giving you the ability to lock orbs, is pretty nice. Not the most broken thing ever, but I've personally always been a big fan of characters that have been able to lock orbs, and depending on the situation, you can really abuse this, which I love. And his last tap effect as well. I mean, you can't really go past this as well, but obviously there is a little bit of a downside to his last tap effect, which we'll get to in a minute, but his last tap effect, just looking at the positives, right? The fact that it does so much additional damage, and obviously it does more damage depending on how much HP the enemy has, so this has the potential to be pretty insane. And the ability to just get Law himself just gets a 3 times attack boost against the enemy that he's attacking, so long as they don't have a full immunity buff. So there's lots of positives here. I love this character, I love the design, and I honestly love the design of all three of these debuting units because they're so different from each other, and you can use them in so many different ways, which I really like. So that's all the positives there. There's lots to love about this lore character. However, it's not all positive going for lore. There are still a couple of problems with this unit. Number one, he's a Dex captain, and Dex is easily the worst color in the game. Like, the thing is like Dex needed a really OP captain. I mean, they had super type Zoro, super type Kid. These units are good, but it wasn't really what Dex needed. I mean, it's nice that Dex have a unit like this now. A really solid cap, easily the best Dex captain in the game, without question. However, the thing with Dex is they really lack in the sub department. They really need better subs that can give them better utility. So we'll see how things go. Hopefully, you know, we progress over the next couple of months and we get some better utility units. But that's definitely one of the big downsides to the Dex color, is the lack of really powerful utility subs, for sure. Another thing about lore is that his kit doesn't really have much utility at all. So if you look at his special, there's nothing that removes debuffs at all. I mean, I guess if you count healing as a utility, or like Ore Block, if you count that as a utility, maybe. But there's nothing in his kit that gives you an ability to remove debuffs. So you do have to rely on some of your subs in order to do that. And as we said, Dex don't really have the best units in terms of subs in the game. So you will probably be relying on Cerebral and Slasher to give you your utility, which luckily for Cerebral in particular, and Slasher has some good units too, you know, these classes will help you out in terms of utility, which is great. He also doesn't guarantee you slots, right? He does give you Strength and Quick appear more often, which is good, or not really appear more often, but make them beneficial, which inherently makes you get more matching slots. But with his special, he only gives himself a matching slot, so that is a little bit of a downside, but there is a way around that, which we'll get to in a little bit. And his last tap condition, as we mentioned, if the enemy has full immunity buff, then you don't get this conditional boost at all. Well, at least not from what we think. If like this last tap ability just ignores everything and guarantees you the boost, that's pretty broken. Especially when you consider his additional damage, because we don't know how this is calculated. Whether it's like, you know, just additional flat damage added, or is it a tap timing bonus? Because that means that, you know, normal attacks only would negate this. So I would think normal attacks only negates this, and I would think that immunity buffs would negate this. So, you know, depending on the boss, that basically negates his last tap condition just in its entirety, which is kind of annoying. So we'll have to wait and see how it actually performs, but on paper, there is the potential for this to just get outright blocked by the enemy, which is not fun. So obviously there's a couple of bad things about lore, but I think overall it's definitely more positive than negative for lore. And as I said, he's probably my favorite of the three debuting legends. So even if you don't pull lore yourself, or even if you have lore yourself and you want to potentially run a hybrid team, there's a couple of pretty good options that you have access to. Luffy lore, you got this Nami as well, you've got Chopper if you want to farm cotton candy for really difficult content, Luffy Zoro to run a slasher based team, and you know, Zoro is a Dex unit as well, so there's pretty good options there. Nami Robin, because obviously you got a Dex unit there. You've got Kid, and remember, Kid's super type condition needs one of the supernovas as well, so lore will inherently allow you to do that, which is pretty good. Sugar, because she's a cerebral unit, so it's weird because Sugar actually works with all three of these units, because she's quick, works for Luffy, she's a cerebral, works for lore, and she's driven, so she works with Kid. So Sugar legit works with all three of these debuting legends, which is pretty dope. You've also got Vivi Rebecca, because they are a cerebral striker captain, and one of them is Dex, so there's lots of synergy there going on, which is good. They're an attack and an orb booster for cerebral and striker, so if you're on a cerebral based team with Vivi Rebecca, that's pretty dope. You got Roger as well, because he is a slasher unit, so has pretty good synergy with lore. He's an attack booster, has utility with his captain effect, of course, super type special, allowing you to get matching slots a lot easier, which can help out lore a lot, so I like that. You got Sanji Pudding as well, because they're another cerebral captain, and you've also got super type Zoro, who I think is probably one of the better units to use, because his special will give you an orb boost, and then his super type condition, or his super type special gives you color affinity. So with lore and Zoro just by themselves, you've got attack boost, orb boost, and color affinity just with those two units alone, so you can fill out the rest of your team with whatever you want. And in terms of damage potential, that's pretty crazy. So all of those things, all these characters are very viable options for hybrid captains, or even just these units as subs on your lore team, or even like these units as captains and then lore as a sub. That would also work. Like, there's lots of good synergy between these units and the brand new Trafalgar lore character, and these are not like the end all be all. There might be some others that I completely ignored that would definitely work, but these are just ones that I thought would be pretty decent options options in terms of using them as a captain or as a sub, you know, with the new Trafalgar Law character. Now, in terms of other ships that you could use, if you are running a full slasher team, the Aura Jackson is a no-brainer. This ship is absolutely busted. It gives you -1 cooldown, attack boost, recovery and tandem matching. So if you run Law and the Aura Jackson ship, you get recovery, tandem, strength, and dex. No, quick. Strength, dex, recovery, tandem as matching with the ship and Law as the captain. Like, that's pretty insane to have that many matching slots alone. So that's a really, really nice synergy going on there. Liberal Hind is another option as well, because Law is a cerebral captain. He's also a slasher captain, so he works perfectly. You know, you get -1 cooldown again, you get additional health, you get the attack boost, so lots to love there. Shark Superb in a Kizuna clash is going to be perfect to get you lots of attack, again, minus cooldown. All very useful to have. You've also got the host ship, which a lot of people are probably going to use. If you are running a slasher team, you can go back to the Polar Tang, boosting the attack of slasher and free spirit characters. You've got the Coded Sunny as well if you wanted to do that, but there aren't like many good ships for like the dex color in general, which is a little unfortunate. So I think you're kind of stuck with Liberal Hind, Aura Jackson, Shark Superb, and like the host ship. I think those are probably the best ones. Maybe the Polar Tang, but I feel like those are probably the best ships to use moving forward. And now we have a look at the key support units that you could be potentially using with Trafalgar Law. So there's actually like a pretty good array of like amazing supports you can use here. You got this Hawkins here, which reduces enemy defense, which is pretty nice. You can use conditional boost with that, which is interesting. Obviously, you know, Law himself with his last tap condition already does that, but if you want to use it on another stage, you can do that. You got a color affinity boost with this Beppo. This Beppo removes threshold. We've got color affinity for your slasher units, which is nice. You've got Corazon, which we all know how good Corazon is, and one of the reasons why Law is just a really useful unit in Treasure Cruise is because of how good this support actually is. You got Fujitora to change badly matching into matching for your slashers. Perospero is good for your cerebral teams because he locks the orbs of your cerebral characters when your unit uses the special. We've got this special edition Corazon, removes bind and attack down. This Beppo removes enemies rainbow shield. This Zora, I believe, is a orb booster when you launch the special, and it only launches if you do a damage dealing special, which is again what I was saying before, how useful this is. So the fact that Law does a damage dealing special with this as a support, you can get Law's attack boost, Law's increased damage taken on the enemy, and this gives your dex characters an orb boost. So that's really good to have all of that active in one unit, right? You've got this Chopper, which is another color affinity booster for dex. It is a treasure map rare recruit character, and I think he comes out with Treasure Map King, I think I want to say. And then there's the support Sengoku, which is an interesting one that I wanted to bring up because, again, this attaches to Law and it only procs if you do a damage dealing special. And remember what we said about Law is that when you launch his special, he gives himself a guaranteed dex slot. And support Sengoku says that when you launch a special that does damage, all your character slots are changed to whatever slot the Law character has. So he gives himself a dex slot, the support Sengoku will proc, giving all your team dex slots, and then also gives you a chain boost, which is dope. So with Law, with support Sengoku, you get a full board of dex slots, you get a 2.75 attack, the increased damage taken on the enemy, and you get a 0.7 chain boost, all with that support. So that's really cool, and that's something that you could look into as well. Support Sengoku is huge. Unfortunately, Japan don't have this character yet, so I would expect Japan to probably get this soon, because this unit is ridiculously good. Also really good for Luffy Law, because when you launch Luffy Law Special, they actually will just straight up make Quick and Dex beneficial to your team, so you just get a full board of slots guaranteed. But either way, that's it. That's all the key support units for Law that I've identified. Definitely not the end all be all. There may be more that I have forgotten, but these are ones that I've identified that are actually pretty decent. But that's the rundown of the brand new Super Sugo-Fest exclusive Trafalgar Law, and as I said, easily my favorite of the three. So let me know your thoughts and opinions about this character down below in the comments section. Would love to hear your guys' opinions. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today, and if you guys did enjoy it, make sure you go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.